Hello, my lovely friends. It is Margaret, and it is time to talk about all of the books that I read in November. I just want to preface this by saying that November kind of kicked my butt, but I did write 50,000 words, so I'm not even mad about the fact that November looks a lot like October when it comes to the number of books I have read, because I, once again, did not read a lot of books. However, like, 2 of those books I absolutely loved, one of which just completely rocked my world. I almost lost NaNoWriMo because of that book. I was like this close to losing NaNoWriMo because I just couldn't. After I finished that book, I needed a minute. As I said, in November, I read 3 books that came to a total of 1,137 pages. The format breakdown is 2 audiobooks and 1 physical book. The age category breakdown is 2 adult books and 1 middle grade book. My genre breakdown came to 2 science fiction and 1 contemporary. The ratings were 2 5-star books and 1 3-star. I owned 2 of those books. 1 was borrowed from the library, saving me a total of $15.95, and 2 of those books were in fact on my Indigathon TBR. My favorite book for the month of November was, to no one's surprise, Abaddon's Gate by James S.A. Corey. My least favorite book was Rain Is Not My Indian Name by Cynthia Lettich Smith. Now that you know how my month went reading-wise, let's talk about what I read, starting out with Abaddon's Gate by James S.A. Corey. Abaddon's Gate is the 3rd book in the Expanse series. It is adult science fiction, and it follows this ragtag, found family group of people who went through a lot in the 1st book, and so they're basically just trying to survive in this very complicated situation between Earth and Mars, and then what we have as the asteroid belt. Nobody is happy with each other. They're all there's tension and all kinds of just conflict happening. No one is outright at war, but the entire series is basically just, we're trying to keep war from happening, and it keeps trying to happen. This series continues to be my favorite thing to exist in 2020. I love these books. They saved me when the 100 let me down, and I just want them to never end. They are going to end. The 9th book is coming out at some point soon-ish, next year, the year after. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't been paying attention because I'm still only on book number 3. So I'm trying not to think too far ahead. Also, I'm so ready for December 16th to be here, to get here, so that I can watch more of James Holden and Naomi Nagata on my screen, because they are the only thing that matters in the world right now. There are other things that matter. They bring me so much joy. They really kind of came in and saved 2020 from Belloc. I don't know what I would do if I did not have these 2 to remind me that, like, sometimes authors do know how to write characters and romance in science fiction. I'm not bitter still. I'm not going to get into too much detail, obviously, because this is supposed to be a non-spoiler review, but I am going to say I do still prefer the show to the books, just because Naomi has a little bit stronger presence, a little bit stronger role in the shows. This did not have, it had several plot lines, but a lot of the plot lines that are in the book were actually given to Naomi in the show, so that we could kind of have the cast that we have get built upon rather than adding new characters. I do really like how they add new characters every single book. Like, it's always Holden, but then you also have other people who are going to be able to see this situation, whatever's going down in each book, from different angles. So you're getting a really nice full picture of it without Jim having to know everything and you being like, dude, why are you so stupid? You're just like, dude, why are you so stupid? Because he genuinely makes stupid decisions, and part of that is because he doesn't have all of the information. So as far as Jim's storyline goes, it is very, very similar to what happens in the book. The book and the show are very similar. And then there are a couple of, the plot for one of the other narrators is split, I feel, between, you've got Kamina, who they add in the show, because obviously the show is low on women, or the series is low on women, and the show wanted to correct that. And then a little bit of that plot maybe went to Naomi. This was a difficult book for me because there is a point of view in here that I just could not care less about. I hated her. I was just like, you are a whiny little biatch. Stop it. Your family no longer having money is not a reason to ruin people's lives. And that's what she's doing. She just is the most stuck-up, selfish, like, she has a come-to-Jesus moment in this series, but I just really wish it had happened sooner. We also get another new character in Anna, and I love Anna. I think I love Anna more in the book than in the show, just because she's a little bit funnier in the book, and I'm always drawn to people who have a good sense of humor and are funny and make crazy decisions while high on pain meds. That's a fun thing that happens, but continue to love this. I continue to feel like it is one of the best written sci-fis that I've ever read, and I love how they're able to focus on the plot and the characters, but still build that science fiction world around you so you have an idea of where they are. You have an idea of how the future has changed, but it doesn't take over the narrative, which is something that I truly, truly appreciate. I highly recommend this series. If you can get past Miller's point of view in book 1, because he is a little bit of a, he's unpleasant. To some extent. I like, he's much better in the show. I like him much better in the show because I'm not in his head, but if you're in his head, it's just kind of a miserable experience. But once you get past Miller, I feel like the rest of the characters that we're introduced to in books 2 and 3, at least so far, except for the one character that I hated in this book, but you know, it was necessary for the plot. Like, important things were happening in her point of view. I just hated her. If you can get past book 1, I highly recommend this series. It's wonderful. I do maybe recommend watching the show and getting attached to the characters, because I feel like that's how I had a little bit less of an annoying time with book 1, because I watched the show first, and so I already knew kind of who Miller was, and it made sense with his character, but I also was completely and totally enamored with Jim. So I just mostly ignored Miller. The next book that I need to talk about is Glare. There we go. Rain Is Not My Indian Name by Cynthia Letitia Smith. Rain Is Not My Indian Name is a YA contemporary. It's a very deep, heartfelt story about a girl who loses her best friend very early on in the book and how she has to kind of grapple and to deal with that. It really looks at how kids deal with grief and how that affects them, and it does that through several different lenses. Can we just talk about how wonderful this cover is? Hold on. There we go. I love the composition of this cover. It also reminds me a lot of the books that I grew up with when I was a kid. Whoop, let's not fall. This was a really good book, and I highly recommend this for anyone who has kids that are of this age range. It is not one I'd feel that is, like, you know how sometimes middle grade books are written so that they are just as enjoyable for adults as they are for kids? This was still very much written for like 10 to 14-year-olds. That's not this book, and that's fine because it is written for people who are not my age. I really liked how this book was structured. I liked how deep it goes. If you're looking for a book that explores grief, especially in kids, this is a really good book for that. You really get a good idea of who Rain is. You really see how losing her best friend just kind of wrecked her world, just completely upended everything for her. And I think that it's really good at exploring those themes. I think it's really good at exploring her connecting with the people in her community, not just the native part of her community, but the entirety of her community. It really does highlight the interplay between her having to be in this world where she is part of a larger community, but she's also aware of the fact that she is one of the only Native Americans in this world. Like, there's a point where she's talking with someone else, an adult, and they're questioning her about something, and she's like, well, I'm one of 7 Native Americans in this town. I think I know who is and who isn't. I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed the cast of characters. I felt the writing was a little juvenile. This felt very much on the lower end of the middle grade spectrum than it did on the older, the higher end. It's definitely written to like the 10s, and maybe like you could even have kids. I mean, this is simple enough. You could probably have, if you have a really advanced reader who's like 8 or 9, they can probably pick this up and read it and get some of what's going on. Basically, just more people need to read this book. Get this book. Get it for your kids. Like, have them read it. Have them experience, especially if you are not Native American, have them experience the lives of kids that are different from them. Because as we have shown, there just is not enough non-white literature, especially in children's books. Like, especially, like, I think it was the last count in 2018 was like 7%. And that's everyone. Like, that's everyone who's not white, not just one specific race. So buy more books like these so people will want to publish more books. The final book that we need to talk about in November that I read, there's no sequel yet, I'm not okay, guys? But that's Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. Black Sun is an adult science fiction slash fantasy. I feel like it's a little more heavy on the fantasy part because this is a world that is inspired very much by, I believe, the Aztec Empire. It is a very rich historical story that is surrounding this event that is going to be happening with the sun, and it follows all of the various different, I don't want to get too into the plot, but it follows the various different people as they are trying to be in the right place for when this, I think it's an eclipse, happens. My word, the amount. Okay, So if you follow me on Twitter at all, you should. My Twitter is linked down in my description box. If you're on Twitter, you should follow me. If you follow me on Twitter at all, you know that one of my most consistent, I'll be like 10 pages into a book and I'll be like, there's not enough kissing in this book. By kissing, I mean like romantic tension. I need all of the romantic tension, and I need them to be in scenes, not necessarily just pining. Like, it works for Titan's Curse because I've got 2 books beforehand, but like also they're 12, so they really shouldn't be doing a lot of the romantic pining before we hit Battle of the Labyrinth. But anyways, that's a tangent. This book had me so stressed for one of the characters that we were like halfway into the book before I was like, oh, I ship it. There are ships here. I need this ship to, please give me more. Just give me the ship. I've got a couple of ships actually in this book. One of them for sure is a ship. The other one, I'm like, I kind of dig it, but I don't know if it's gonna happen. But it's like, I'm such a sucker for 2 people on opposite sides of a conflict having to work together, and then like sparks happen. Anyways, so this was so good. I finished it on November 30th, the last day of NaNoWriMo. And then like I finished it on the way home from work. I'm pretty sure. Did I finish it on the way home? Yeah, I finished it on the way home from work, and it ended, and I was like driving down my street screaming because it had ended. And Rebecca, why? Why would you do that to your readers? There's no sequel. How are you allowed to end a book that way with no sequel out? What? Why? This is painful. I am now like sitting there on the edge of my seat for 2 different Rebecca Roanhorse books that are sequels to books. I guess the other one wasn't quite as high stakes in the ending, but I still need the next one. Rebecca, please. This book was so good. The world building is a lot. I will say that. It is not more than you have in something like the Expanse series. It is definitely like heavy world building, so if you have a hard time paying attention to those things, or you feel you need to be able to catch all the details, I don't recommend listening to this on audiobook. I listened to it on audiobook and absolutely adored the experience because the narrators chosen for this audiobook, just perfection. I loved them. One of them, I didn't like their voice for Serapio, the one that did Shiala, but okay, whatever, I'll get over it. But the voices that they chose for the characters that were narrating, perfect. The plot for this book is just so complex and layered. There are so many things that are involved in this. You have there are so many different, like, conflicts going on, so many different things that are having to be balanced. You have Shiala and Serapio who are headed towards where our other characters are, and having I can't without the spoilers, but like, my word, guys, just the way she brought this plot together and had everything connected, and I'm just sitting there going, more of this, please, and also being very stressed for Narampa because that plot just hit, Narampa's plot just hits home real hard. Oh man, none of these are words. It's just mostly me going like, because that's basically how I listened to the book, going, the entire. I was a little lost at the beginning. I was not paying as much attention as I should have been, but that didn't really affect my reading experience. I'm very used to being like, I just start a book and let my brain catch up when it catches up, and then I will go and reread. I'm going to go and reread this book because there is so much, and I'm going to reread it physically so I can take notes, because I have a feeling I will need those notes for book 2 when book 2 comes out. I'm not ready. I guess I should probably mention that I love the characters. I loved Shiala. She just is. Rebecca Roanhorse knows how to write a strong female character, a very dynamic, strong female character. I just like Maggie Hosky, Shiala. I don't know her last name. Does she have a last name? I'm not entirely sure. It's not mentioned, or if it is, I missed it. She just knows how to write like really dynamic, layered, complex female characters who are still like kick-ass and taking names and all of that, but they're not just the one thing. She doesn't just like write a violent, angry man character and put boobs on them, as many, many strong female characters kind of are. I probably should not love Serapio, because I'm sure like there's some stuff that's happened and has happened. but I love him, and I don't want anything bad to happen to him. Ever. God. Those are the two that really stood out, but Narampa and Akoa, just so, oh, characters. I need to know what happens next. So we are trying something new because I know that sometimes it can just be a lot to have to leave a comment on someone's video. If you don't want to put too much effort in there, just leave me like your favorite emoji in the comments. Just like pop that down in there. If you would like to make me suffer because I am a Capricorn and must be right about all things, you can go ahead and use emojis to describe the plot of your book that you're reading right now, and I will agonize over what book it is because I am terrible at deciphering plots through emojis. I just suck at it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, I will have videos over here. You're already on YouTube. Why don't you check out a couple more of the things that I have on my channel, please? Thank you. I would appreciate it. That is it for now, my friends. Happy reading, and I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye!